Hi, I'm Stacey Brown, and you're tuned in to Jiggaset Radio.
Where you seen that on the internet? Nah, I was listening to Jiggaset. Oh, I be listening to every show, keeping me on in the know on Jiggaset Radio. Where you seen that on the internet? Nah, I was listening to Jiggaset. Oh, I be listening to every show, keeping me on in the know on Jiggaset Radio.
Welcome to Jiggaset Radio, y'all. I'm here with yet another guest, y'all. Y'all bring on, help me welcome Stacey Brown, y'all. Y'all make some noise for Miss Stacey.
Well, hello, everybody. Glad to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So the first thing I'd like to ask my guests is tell the people that's watching and or listening, because it's going to be on Spotify, YouTube, all of the above, who you are. Tell the people who you is.
Well, first and foremost, I am a mother of three because I think that really reflects a lot of what I do in the rest of my life.
Yeah.
I'm an advocate, activist, do a lot of policy work, but I am also a master life and leadership coach. So I do a lot of work with leaders in nonprofit and faith-based organizations, but also do work with moms who think that for some reason, them being a mother is a disqualification when I'm telling them, honey, no, that is actually one of your biggest assets, being a mom, because it's a lot of leadership qualities that go into that. Yeah. So that's who I am, and a little bit crazy. I got papers on it, so don't try to come at me. But I think, really to do all of what I do, it helps.
Yeah. So let's just dive right into it because I feel like you got a lot. I think there's a story there, y'all. There's a whole story there, and we're gonna get to the bottom of it. So let's talk about. I like to talk about childhood because I feel like childhood definitely establishes or sets the precedent to a lot of things that we do sequentially after we start finding ourselves. So let's talk about your childhood. Tell me a little bit about your childhood.
So I was born and raised in El Paso, Texas.
Okay.
And yes, there are Black people there, and most of us are there because of the military base, Fort Bliss.
I'm so glad you said that.
Right. Because that's the first thing people ask. There's Black people there? Yeah, there's a couple of us. Yeah. But I'm the youngest of four. And being the youngest of four is a difficult task, but because we're spaced out a little bit from me and my older siblings, there's about 7 years. And then, so there's 3 girls, 1 boy. My brother was right in front of me. So I kind of took on that even though I'm youngest, I run this. And I need y'all to know that. Yes. And a lot of times I even let my parents know, hey, I need you to get in line with the vision, okay? I was born in September Virgo, so very much look here. This is how it's going to run. I understand and appreciate your input. Yes. However, this is what we're going to do. So very much that take charge, get things done. I've never been afraid to, stand up and voice my opinion, and often that put me at odds with my dad. So, our relationship was a little contentious, throughout my childhood and teens. However, because they knew that I was, very boisterous and wasn't afraid to ask the questions, often they put me in positions where I would be able to say what everybody else was thinking. Yeah. And, and they could just blame it. Oh, she's just a child. She didn't know better. Yes, I did. I absolutely did. Absolutely. So it really set me up to be able to have those critical conversations as I gotten older. Yeah, for sure. Definitely not being afraid to have critical conversations and really question the status quo.
Absolutely. Okay. So being someone that is a strong Black woman, strong-minded, as you were growing up, did that present itself as a problem?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
I mean, you mentioned your dad, but
Right. But I mean, I grew up in the 80s/90s. So, there was a lot of different mindsets then.
Yes, for sure.
And being an outspoken, smart Black girl was problematic to some folks. not just those that are not Black race, but sometimes even within the African American race, because children were still supposed to be seen and not heard. Right. Then so when you have someone that challenges that, it's often that you get labeled with these titles. Oh, well, she's bad, or she's fast, and all these things. Like, what does me questioning that have to do with me being fast? Absolutely nothing. So I mean, there's a lot of things that I had to deal with as far as titles and people speaking things into my future that really you should never speak to a child. Mm-hmm. So it taught me how to be very mentally tough, and to learn how to be, as my aunt used to say, part duck, and let some stuff just roll off your back, and not let those folks speak over your destiny. Yeah. And it gave me really much the mentality of, oh, so you thought, I'll show you.
Okay. So, because we talked about, you mentioned being a mother in your introduction. And so, how does that translate growing up, and now you are a mother, a parent, and now, like, how do you instill that in your children now? Like, do you tell them to operate within a certain area, or do you say, like, be you, and I'm going to find a way to support you the best way?
Absolutely. I think it's yes and. As a parent, I have three beautiful children, 2 boys, 1 little girl, ages 16, 10, and 6. So I have every age of childhood in my house right now. Y'all just stretch your hand out this way and say, bless her. I need it. But one of the things I really teach my children is, authenticity. Be yourself and learn how to advocate for yourself, but also teaching them when it's appropriate to do it yourself and when it's appropriate to tag me in.
Yes.
So we teach them about, I really teach them about, first of all, understand who you're talking to.
Yes.
When it gets to the point where that authority figure is no longer hearing you, and it's going to be, create more of a problem situation than, you get things getting resolved. Okay, disengage.
Yeah.
Disengage. Just let me handle it later. And they also know I was an auditor for 15 years, so I'm going to ask all the questions. Everybody is going to get questions. Yeah. So make sure you're telling me the truth. That's one of my biggest things. Don't let me find out something when I get in this office that you could have told me, and then I look crazy. Yeah. Well, don't do it. Don't do it.
She got her backwards.
Right. Listen. I do have my papers. Now listen here. Hey, look. And she knows the laws. Don't do it. Don't do it. But especially in this environment, where it's some of the wounds that I had where you're seen and not heard. Yeah. And you never get a chance to ask the questions, that form your views. And in this day and age, these kids have access to way more information than we had. We was on AOL internet. No. The dial-up. We still had the Encyclopedia Britannica things. They can look up on their iPad and their phone and have access to the whole world of internet, So it's important that I keep those conversations open with them. And really, in the process of raising my children, I've really started to reparent myself.
Oh, okay.
So I'm giving them what they need, and sometimes having to come to the realizations that my desires for them have to take a back seat to what they need and their desires for themselves.
Yes.
Because we want the best things for our kids, but often what we feel is best for them is really what's easy and simplest for us.
Right.
So that's really kind of what I've learned in this parenting journey. These kids nowadays.
It is funny because now that you're in the position of being a parental figure, the things that you find yourself saying those things like, oh, I would never say that. And then you become that parental figure?
Absolutely. Every day I do something that I'm looking at myself in the mirror. Oh, well, I'm a mom today. Or, oh, look, I just turned into my dad.
Yeah.
Like some of the things that we didn't understand, like I told myself I would never say because I said so.
Yeah.
Not because that make no sense.
Yes.
I just didn't understand it. That's no reason. That's not a reason.
Yes.
Yes, it is. It is absolutely a reason because I said so, because I have the authority to shut it down. So I don't need a reason to hide because I said so. Point blank period.
So, with that being said, of course, we have us being from a product of our parents that didn't get a instruction manual on how to be a parent either. And so, have you noticed some things as a mother now that your parents did, and you was like, I'm not sure why they did that. I'm going to change that on my track as a parent. I'm going to change that.
Absolutely.
Have you? Is there a couple examples you can give?
Oh yes. Oh yes. Like I mentioned earlier, the relationship between me and my dad was, quite contentious at some point because, very much women are to be this way and, you're supposed to be submissive and just he was raised very, very old school. Yeah. So I was anything and everything but that. Very much, well, we're going to question this and no, I got it. I'm going to stand up on my own. And so he had to learn really how to learn to love that and, love me in that part of my personality. And it really didn't come until we were able to see eye to eye once I had my oldest son.
Oh. Okay.
And then you begin to understand, like you said, there is no parenting manual. In a lot of ways, our children heal us, but they also trigger us.
Mm-hmm.
And there's situations, particularly after I went through, I say this and it kind of makes me giggle, my first divorce. I'm everybody's first wife. I'm trying to be somebody's forever wife though. I really just everybody's first wife, but I'm trying to be a forever wife. Really. Yeah. But going through that first divorce and seeing in ways that, I really took a lot of the baggage that I had with my father into my relationships. And often because I was still that kid that was trying to prove a point, I didn't leave room for the dynamic that would have between me and, my partner. And I didn't necessarily get the opportunity to bring up things that were hurtful to me, to my parents.
Yeah.
Back then, parents didn't apologize to children.
No.
And so that's one of the things that I've had to instill in my kids. If I did something that was wrong, I'm going to apologize to you.
Absolutely.
I'm going to apologize if my tone is bad because it's not your fault that everybody else in the world is being stupid today. And so by the time I got home, I had about a half a nerve left.
Yeah.
And you just stepped on it.
Yeah.
That's not your fault.
Yeah,
and so nor should you be the bearer of the consequences for what everybody else did. So, I do give my children the opportunity to be like, Mom, what you said hurt my feelings. And then I have to put my ego aside. Okay, what did I say that hurt your feelings?
Yes.
And a lot of the times, it's not what I said, it's how I said it.
Of course.
So I have to really be mindful of that. And often, mommy's going to put herself in timeout for about 15, 20 minutes. Yeah. I'm going to the room. Don't knock on the door. And get myself together. So that way, when I come out, I can have a better attitude. Yeah. And so the tone of the house can change. Because, we say happy wife, happy life. Happy mom.
Nice. With all this wisdom that you've gathered from being a parent, a little bird told me that was on a forum that you have organizations that are surrounded or predicated on parenthood.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about it.
Yes. So one of the I think a lot of the greatest traits that I learned about leadership, I learned from being a mother.
Of course.
So I have an organization, Brilliance and Resilience, that's about helping mothers discover their leadership and bringing that to their organizations, be it their corporate jobs, their nonprofit organizations, their churches, because often they think it's a disqualifier, and it's not.
Right.
Whether you're dealing with a baby toddler or an adult that's acting like a toddler. There's certain things as a mother, you learn those conflict resolution skills. Yes. As a mother, you understand how to lead different personalities, because although all your children came from you, they're completely different.
Absolutely.
And, especially right now, I'm parenting 3 completely different stages in my house, and also 3 different ways in how I have to approach. Yeah. How I approach my oldest is not going to how I'm going to approach my 6-year-old. Right. Because 1, the understanding level is different.
Absolutely.
2, the personality styles is different. I look at my daughter cross-eyed and she starts to cry. Oh. My son, half the time I feel like I have to, NFL tackle him to get him to even pay attention. Sir, please, come on. Or get more than a one word answer out of him.
Yeah.
They are professionals in knowing how to use okay in like 17 different ways. Just like okay.
Yeah.
But it's helped me really be a better leader, because in the workforce or in these organizations, you have different people that are different levels of understanding. And if you're trying to be a one size fits all, have a one size fits all methodology, you're going to miss.
Yep.
You're going to miss. And I think it's really important to know your team and to understand the different personality types that they have. So that way you're getting the goal accomplished, but you're also helping them develop. Right. So it's very equivalent to parenting. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times we miss that. We miss that as it's essentially as Black women. We sometimes think that, those 2 aren't transferable. They absolutely are.
Okay. Yes, absolutely. So thank you for sharing that organization. And we're going to definitely get into more as far as how to follow, getting in you. Well, let me just ask that. Do you have any events scheduled?
I do. Okay. So we have the Brilliance and Resilience. The official launch of it is going to be on October 27th. Okay. So we're planning on doing it. I'm still working out the location, but it'll be more than likely from 7 to 9. Okay. So that way you can do what you need to do. And I understand it's around Halloween time, so you can still get your outfit on and go to your Halloween parties. Yeah. But it's really going to be about not just helping each other grow, but one of the main aspects that I want to have about it is also creating a benevolence fund.
Yes.
The economy was not nice to, a lot of the working class, especially those of us who are single moms. And there's only one income coming in. Yeah. So, I've heard and really helped a lot of women find resources for helping with rent, helping with utilities. Because Lord, I got my energy bill last month, and I said, who is stealing? Who has connected their house to my house? Because this is not it. No, ma'am, no, sir. I need to talk to the supervisor, because this isn't right. Yes, it really isn't. But when we're talking about mothers who don't necessarily have that ability to change their income, or don't have a side hustle because they don't necessarily have time or the knowledge, but that's part of what this organization is about. To help women in all the aspects of being women. So not just business, but in their personal life. As a single mom, we don't want to be single for forever. I mean, so, a little dating love advice. Yeah. It won't be from me, obviously. I haven't figured that out yet. And I can get a husband, but we're just figuring out how to keep him.
That's a skill.
Man, on that part we said.
Yeah, we're sitting here with Stacey Brown, y'all. Y'all make some more noise for her. I love her energy. I love what she's saying. I love the presence in the community and for women, how she supports them. I feel that there's other organizations that you have, other things you got in rotation, because if you're doing some great things with women alone, I feel like you have the capability as a leader, a mom, and an advocate to the women and just I'm gonna find out what other things you advocate. Yeah. But like, tell me about some other projects you got going on.
Absolutely. So, with my fraternity brother and good friend Daniel Clayton, we founded Health Equity Texas. It's an organization that is really trying to remove all the health disparities within the state of Texas.
Okay.
My particular emphasis is mental health. In 2014, I had a mental health breakdown and attempted suicide.
Oh, wow.
Thank God I wasn't. Yes. Okay. Yes, it is Suicide Awareness Month. So I'm especially cognizant of the fact that, we need to get that message out, especially for our Black men. The suicide rate here in Dallas County alone has tripled within the last 3 years. Oh. And often I feel that we don't put enough attention to it because we're still stuck in the old adage, well, Black people don't do that. We absolutely do.
Yes.
And we need to stop really stigmatizing getting help. We need to stop stigmatizing, having these critical conversations. And this is why I bring it up in jest, at the beginning of conversations a lot, like, hey, I'm crazy, I have my papers, So it kind of lightens it up. Yeah. However, it never fails that sometimes people will get, well, what would those papers say? What's on the papers? And then it gives me the opportunity to, share my journey through, maintaining my mental health and wellness and how, I've tried all the different methods, definitely am a firm believer in therapy, firm believer in Jesus, but I understand that those are tools and strategies that are to be used together, not used as opposed to one over the other. But it really has opened up to where we can have these conversations, and it's especially important to me, not just for my own self, but for my children. I lost my brother to suicide.
I'm sorry.
In March of 2022. Oh, wow. So this is very personal to me, very personal to me. And if I can do anything so that we can help have an avenue where somebody can say, hey, I'm not doing okay.
Yeah.
Then I'm going to do it.
Yeah. Okay. And on JSR, we talk a lot about mental health, and especially in the Black community, because seeking therapy is deemed, there's a stigma in our community about seeking therapy, and we get called, especially, but I think it's more so in the older generations. The younger generations, it's like, it's kind of part of this kind of streamline.
Right.
It's like they have more resources for one.
Yes.
Two, it's just more socially acceptable in this day and age. So, and when people say I'm crazy, they say I'm crazy. I'm like, you know what? I'm a little crazy too.
Absolutely.
And I'm okay with that.
I'm okay with that.
So, definitely appreciate you for sharing that story. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to get right back into it. I have some more questions for Stacey, and I think she got some answers for me. So we'll talk to y'all here in a second. And so we're back on Jigga Said Radio. We're sitting here with Stacey Brown, y'all. Y'all make some noise. She's been such a pleasure, such a thrill. We were having some tech issues, and as a tech major, I have to even say, like, sometimes technology, she don't want to wake up, and she, as Stacey just said, she said that the technology had to assess the energy in the room, and there's a lot of energy here. That's why the technology started working.
So you know what? I get. I'll go ahead and do this. I'll go ahead and make it up here.
I told her I would upgrade her Beyonce style. I said, I'm gonna give you a couple more megabytes for your back. So one thing that I discovered during our conversations, off camera, by the way, was that Stacey and I are both entrepreneurs. And so we're going to talk about entrepreneurship because, we most of the guests that come on Jigga Set Radio have been entrepreneurs, and so it's been like just a easy, fluid conversation because we just know that it's a totally different lifestyle, and it is not for everybody.
It isn't.
It's not, and you can't really force someone to be an entrepreneur. It literally is like we were born for this. You can't. It's not like a PDF you can get to teach someone how to be an entrepreneur. It's just you just go through life experience. You start applying it, and you have a concept and an idea that you want to bring to life that you feel other people can benefit from, and then next thing you know, you sold for $200. You're an entrepreneur,
and we're off.
And we're off. Don't collect the $200. Even though we'll take it.
You will.
So, as an entrepreneur, Miss Stacey, tell me about your experience, because like when did your entrepreneur journey begin?
My entrepreneur journey actually started off when I was really young. Mm-hmm. I've always had an eye for business and wanting to, have ways to work for myself. So I had lemonade stands.
Oh, wow. Okay.
When I got older, I had a babysitting business. So I went and got all my certifications and CPR, all of that. And so I had a constant stream of clients.
Yeah.
And my regulars.
Yeah.
So when folks was asking folks for money, I was loaning my parents money.
Right.
I had a ledger book and everything. So I'm like, I can't give you that. You're already extended. But,
I love it.
But if you make a payment, see how I figure that.
And so the order thing was already...
It was meant to be. It really was, which was so hilarious because, in my mind, I was going to be a doctor. I was going to be a doctor.
Yeah.
Originally had the thought of being a pediatrician. Like, no, we're going to change to pharmacy. So I went to school with the intention of being a pharmacist. When I first got to Texas A&M, where I started off, I was a biochemistry and genetics major.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, this is a little bit too much. So let me go ahead and switch it up to nutritional sciences. And, life was life. Life was life. And went to talk to my advisor about, okay, well, I want to do this pharmacy school thing, but this is getting on my nerves. And so it's like, you do know there's a school that has a 6-year pharmacy program right down the road where, you got pretty much all the prerequisites. You could go right in there.
Yeah.
Which was Texas Southern University.
Mm-hmm.
So I transferred there and, still in my mindset, I'm going to do this because I'm going to open my own pharmacy. I'm not going to work for Walgreens. Well, maybe a little bit just to, get their practices. Still looking, learn from their operational manuals and things like that.
Yeah.
Get a supplier or two.
Yeah.
And then, open up my own pharmacy. So I get to, long story short, that didn't really work out and ended up being in business.
Yeah.
I graduated with my BBA in accounting.
Nice.
With emphasis in tax and audit. Mm. Now, I graduated in 2009 in Houston with Enron right there.
Oh, right. Right.
So, needless to say, we got a hands-on on audit.
Yeah.
Right then and there.
Yeah.
Because really everything we knew we had a professor that actually came in to one of my classes and was like, look, everything we just taught you, forget about it.
Oh. Because
we have a whole new system coming in. For those of you that are business folks, you know about Sarbanes-Oxley. If you don't, Google it and you can see, she is nothing nice. All of that, then, I've translated to my business. And sometimes, in looking at processes, as an auditor, we're taught to look at, all the worst case scenarios. Risk management is some of the things that we do. And often for an entrepreneur, yes, that is a good trait to have, to know about the potential risk. But sometimes you can go a little bit overboard. Mm-hmm. And then now we're in the mindset of, analysis paralysis and we're stuck. Mm-hmm. And we want things to, be so perfect. We don't want to mess up. So we don't have all what we need. So we're just not going to get started. Mm. And that gets so many entrepreneurs just stuck. They have great ideas.
Yep.
Great ideas.
And would you contribute that to
them trying to be a perfectionist.
Right. It's definitely that perfectionism. And often they kind of fed into some of the bad business advice that's out there right now.
Yes.
You can't get started if you don't have a website, and if you don't have a CRM system, and you don't have a lot of that stuff you don't need to get started.
Yeah.
You really don't, especially with social media. If you have a good Facebook page or an Instagram page, there are businesses who have made millions and still don't have websites.
Yeah.
Still don't.
Right.
When Crayon Box first got started, she saw a lot of that off of social media alone. So, I think we get stuck in our own heads, and we think that not only do we have to have everything perfect, but it has to be this grandiose thing. It doesn't. Don't despise small beginnings. Just get started. Even if it's the one little gig where you have paid $150 for that vendor table at the spring fair.
Yeah.
Get started.
Yeah.
Get your idea out there.
Yeah. And so how often as a mentor, a leader, have you found people that had a light and was dim, was discouraged because they were trying to be a perfectionist? And what did you do to help mitigate that, to kind of bring them out of it, especially as someone that, was facing like suicide, and understanding that once you can get stuck in a mental holding pattern. Absolutely. And usually sometimes it's within yourself, or sometimes it's an outside force, knowing that what it takes to pull yourself out of it. So like, how do you help those individuals?
Absolutely. It's really taking it back to the basics.
Yeah.
And giving an understanding that right now, as you're starting this or restarting this, you're going to suck. You are.
You have to be okay with failure.
You have to be okay with that. Just like as a mother, your kids aren't going to get walking right away.
Yeah.
They're going to fall. They're going to, pull stuff down on the way down. It's just not going to come natural to them.
Yes.
And even once they do get walking, it's going to be slow. So don't expect them to keep the same pace as you. But we have that understanding of the children, and that, it's fine. Yeah, to us it gels. But when it comes to, either our mental health journeys or our entrepreneur journeys, all of a sudden it's like, oh no, I'm supposed to be good at something all the way. You're not going to be. And so you have to give yourself grace.
Yes.
And understand that before you can have these processes, these complex processes, you have to have a foundation of good, consistent habits.
Yes.
One of the ways in which I really was able to rebound from my mental health journey was just starting with one habit. I was really going through not just, because literally it felt like my life was falling apart. Between 2013 and 2014, I lost my dad. I lost my sister suddenly to an aneurysm from a tumor that we didn't even know she had.
Wow.
She didn't even know she had. Our house caught on fire. I was having issues from postpartum depression. Like everything that could happen did happen.
Yeah.
And so when I got home from the mental health facility, because, after you have a suicide attempt, a lot of times Texas deems, we just don't have to take you in for your own protection.
Yeah.
And, I'm not ashamed of that, because really that encounter saved my life. It did. But when I got home, there were days where I just didn't want to get out of bed. I didn't have the strength. I didn't have the desire. So I started off with one little habit at a time.
Okay.
I'm going to get out of this bed and I'm going to make the bed.
Yes.
Because I knew if I made the bed, I more than likely wouldn't get back in it. So it forced me to come out of the bedroom and to go into the rest of the house. And even if it was just sitting on the couch, I knew that it would help me to at least make a little bit of progress. And it did, because I went from making the bed to moving to the couch. Okay, well, now we're moving from the couch and we're starting cooking again.
Yeah.
Okay.
Developing your routines.
Okay. We saw something on TV. All right. Well, that gave us a little inspiration.
Yep.
Well, let me go to the craft store and buy some crafts and get back into, and really it triggered that entrepreneur spirit back again, because one of the things that I did as my therapy, I made wreaths. So, I went to the craft store and was going to the craft store every other day and making all these wreaths. Next thing I know, I don't have anywhere to put these wreaths because I'd have made 17.
Right.
So I was like, hey, some of these are really, really good.
Yeah.
Let me take pictures of them. And I started selling them.
Yeah.
And, as I was going through my mental health journey and learning and began to, be peer leader for our peer groups and things like that, and sharing my journey with people at church. And, it helped me to then transition into coaching. And so, when I opened my own coaching practice in 2017, because I wanted to make sure that, let me be healed.
Right.
Enough.
Absolutely.
First and foremost.
Before I try to help somebody else.
Gotta have the mask on your own self before you try to go and say something.
Absolutely.
Right? And a lot of times we as entrepreneurs, I think, especially those in the helping and the coaching industry, we're not far enough removed from our trauma. And so when we try to help other people, we're actually re-triggering ourselves. And we're doing more harm than we are good.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, it just really helps me. But all that to say is it just build the good habits first. And do that with consistency. Do that with consistency. And then once you master that skill, okay, let's learn another. Because as an entrepreneur, you're going to be doing a whole bunch of stuff.
Oh, yes.
You're going to be the webmaster, customer service agent, the sales agent, all of that.
Like we said, starting off, we got to start off with the basics. You got to start off somewhere.
Right. And, you'll get good enough, and then you'll be to the point where now you need to outsource.
Delegate it.
Get somebody else to do it, right? So that way you have time to do the things that only you can do and offload the things that somebody else can do.
Absolutely. So that's very sound advice. She did great with that. So reaching the people that, and again, I was telling you at the beginning of the podcast, like, sometimes what you say on the podcast can recharge somebody else. And we get that a lot with JSR and the guests that come on here. Be spreading little nuggets everywhere. And so one thing, and I'll definitely share this on the podcast, is that I had a moment maybe about a month or so ago where I got overwhelmed. I started going down that little hole where I feel like I should be further alone.
Right.
And what triggered it, or what did not make it any better, was social media. And so I wanted to ask you if you had a moment, because I felt like I'm looking through my stories. I'm looking through the posts, the reels, and I'm like, I work so much harder than these individuals, and I don't get half the likes, the recognition, and things like that. When you decide to do something for yourself in hopes that other people will buy into it or whatever the case is, you talk about real things. You don't get as much support on social media, not as much love for the double taps.
All right. Yes.
And then it makes you feel away, because it's like, all they did was maybe show off their abs or shake a little ass. And they get 20,000 likes. And I'm going to get 24 likes. And I say, I got another thing coming up. So how do you handle that as an entrepreneur? Because that's a mental element.
It is. Comparison is the thief of joy. It really is.
Yeah.
And really, social media for a lot of people has been the main conduit to them quitting before it was time.
Yep.
And I really, one of the things that I encourage my leaders to do is the 3 Ds and A. So in order to really maintain your mental health, one we already talked about, which is to delegate.
Yep.
Get those things off your plate, so that way you have time to focus on those things that not only only you can do, but the things that really bring you joy and light you up.
Yeah.
Number 2 is what we are talking about right now, which is the disconnect. Get off of social media, because a lot of times you're going to re-trigger yourself and compare yourself to someone who is really not even on the same path as you.
Right.
everybody has their own drama. And then we need to understand that social media is like ESPN. You are going to see the highlights and you're going to see a whole bunch of commercials.
Yes.
But there's a lot more that occurred in the game that you will never see.
Yep.
So stop comparing yourself, because a lot of people aren't going to show you the low lights.
Yeah.
They're going to show you, the Maseratis in the beautiful 5-bedroom house that a lot of times is an Airbnb and is a tour. It ain't there. Just so we understand that.
We're speaking facts.
Right. There's a lot of flash on social media, and a lot of it is not true substance.
Yes.
So when you start to feel that you are getting overwhelmed by what you're seeing, be okay with disconnecting.
Yep.
Be all right with that. And then, disengage. You don't need to be at everything.
Yeah.
You don't need to run every meeting.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes we get in our egos, like, if I'm not attending this meeting, then it's not going to run efficiently. Oh, but it will.
Oh, yes.
Oh, but it will. Especially as a leader, if you've trained your team to handle
they're
things,
a reflection of you.
they're going to get it done. They're going to get it done. It may not be done the way that you do it, but it's going to get done. And a lot of that is trying to find ourselves in other people.
Yeah.
We have to let them do what they do.
Yep.
Done is better than perfect.
Yes.
So remember that with that perfectionism. Done is better than perfect. And then the A, automation.
Mm-hmm.
Baby, with ChatGPT and all these things that are going on, use these tools. I'm even used them, of course, for my business and social media schedules and things like that. But I've even used it as a mom.
Yes.
One of the unspoken great tools.
Yeah, Google.
So I put in there, listen, Bart, I need you to create me 30 days, 30-day menu. In this menu, include kid-friendly options with a protein, a fruit or vegetable, and a starch, including shopping list. Do you know it spit that out? All I had to do was click on the recipes, put put the ingredients that I needed in my Walmart Plus shopping list. Boom, and I had everything I needed for the next 30 days.
Yeah.
Ready to go for me.
Nice.
So then all I had to do was do meal prep and stuff like that. Utilize these skills, once you get to the point where you are, because Google is a great tool for your emails. Do you know you can schedule emails?
Yes.
Do you know you can create lists where you don't need to spend that money on the CRM? Just create you a contact list. Go ahead and send out that email. Hey, thank you for this and this and this, and we're having this event. Learn to utilize the free things before we always think that we have to invest all sorts of money.
Yeah.
I would say if you're going to really not skip on an area of investing, invest in yourself.
Yes.
Invest in the knowledge, invest in self-care, especially self-care. I think I'm going with social media. I really think that a lot of times what we have deemed self-care is not really caring for ourselves.
Yeah.
If you are an introvert, going to a festival with 4,000 people won't be self-care for you.
No. Anxiety.
It will deplete you.
Yeah.
But, that's what you saw everybody was doing. Everybody wanted to go to the Beyonce concert. So you're like, okay, I'm going to go to the Beyonce concert. And the whole concert, you're like, why you? And now you're spending 3 days at home because you have to get yourself together from all that energy you just expended to everybody.
Yeah.
So, I mean, all that to say, and be authentic to yourself. The body is very, very smart, and that it tells you what it needs.
Yep. You just got to pay attention.
You just got to listen. You just got to listen.
I can definitely relate to that recharging situation, because I was telling her that I'm a bartender, I'm a mixologist, and I have, having my own private bartending business. We put out, bartenders in general, shout out to us. But it's just like when we get into bartender mode, we have to be, we have to pour out energy, because the people that come to the bar have different personalities. And so a lot of times people come to the bar, they're trying to escape something, their problem from the week. And sometimes you have to be that listening ear. And, you know, it may pay off later on when you get a tip or whatever. But at the same time, you have to be mindful because, like, every time you give out energy and you're not getting anything back, guess what happens? When I get done with my bartending gigs, I need about a day or two. Don't bother me. Don't text me. Don't expect me to show up nowhere. I need some time to recharge.
Right.
Because you literally exude a lot of social energy. Even if it's a situation to where you're not the one having to lift somebody else up, somebody might come to the bar that has too much energy, and you're still absorbing or trying to match their energy. Now you're burning through your energy fast, you know? And so I need time to recharge. A lot of people are like, oh, it's just an excuse. I promise you, as my mental health journey has unfolded, I have my mechanism. I understand. I listen to my body now. Before I just felt like I was just tired and like I didn't understand why I just didn't want to be around people. And then now I understand, like, it's because I'm literally depleted.
Right.
And I didn't know how to recharge. And then I went to therapy and I understood the value of being around water. Like, because I love water.
Yes, that's mine too. Ooh, yes.
Put me around some water. I don't need to be in it. Just put me. Don't force me to swim because that's going to drain me too. You put me around some water. It could be a beachfront property. It could be, I could walk up to the beach and just, you know, let it touch my toes a little bit. I'm okay with that. But that helps recharge because literally it's just open abyss, just looking into the just openness. Mm-hmm. It's something about that just kind of like, even though it's recharging me, it's also letting me to let something go. Mm-hmm. Throw it out there and let God deal with it. Just throw it out there. And so recharging for me looks like water. Recharging for me, give me some mountains. I'm okay with that too. That's my top two. The other part of it is I'm a big kid at heart. So sometimes if I want to watch some cartoons from back in the day to make me feel like, because back in the day, I didn't have these words.
Right.
So it reminds me, it's a remnants. It's a staple. It's like, okay, I'm going to watch these because back in the day,
time.
it was carefree. I had to worry about bills. Adulting sucks.
Yes. And we were in such a rush to be grown.
I said, I can't wait.
I'm ready to return this. No, it's not operating like I thought it would. The warranty is up. No.
They said, so I was watching somebody's Instagram or TikTok. I forgot which one. It was on social media, but they had said, the hood that I do not like is adulthood.
It's so good.
It's overrated.
0 stars. Matter of fact, who can I sue for misrepresentation? Because y'all made this look good. It is not. I don't like it.
I think it's because we had a blind eye because we saw our parents and we was like, man, they get to do whatever they want to do. I can't wait to get there. Right. I don't want nobody telling me anything I can't do no more. I'ma just fast forward me to 21.
And a lot of it is because we didn't understand, and this is what I also incorporate with my children, is really we didn't want adulthood, we wanted autonomy.
Yes.
That's what we want.
Yes.
And so with my kids, I give them that in certain parameters because, again, Virgo, we like things particular. So, even if it's letting them choose, okay, you can either wear this outfit or this outfit. But that helps them, because a lot of why these folks are struggling and their mental health is going down because they had parents that didn't let them do anything.
Oh, yes.
So when they got out in the real world,
they sought freedom like it was nothing.
Right.
They would just start
you don't know how to wash clothes.
Right.
You don't know how to sew a button.
Right. Yeah.
It's so many other, and all of that becomes overwhelming. Mm-hmm. So, especially as an entrepreneur, when you're trying to manage the business life plus the home life, whether you're married, single, kids, no kids, a pet mom or dad, all of it, life's still life.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Life's still life. And so you have to learn how to manage both those.
Yeah.
But kudos to you for first and foremost being open to even the idea of therapy. Mm-hmm. And then, seeing it through and really implementing those self-care things into your life.
Yes. It was a process because I was like, is it a one and done thing? Can I be cured? I felt like I told my when I started with my most recent therapist, I said, hey, listen, I'm just thinking that we just have one session. I'm going to just put it all out there and I should be cured. Like, I think you just gave me a couple tools and I'll be good. And he was like, And so we going into it, and realizing that you end up learning new things about yourself.
Absolutely.
And it's been multiple times, and I know he's gonna be watching, and he's gonna be like, "Yup." There's been multiple times where I would be in the middle of talking, and he asked me a question, knowing that he knew exactly how this is gonna play out, and I'm like, "No, I'm not doing that, because if I do that, then it's gonna make me feel vulnerable." And oh my God, I need to be more sensitive in this situation. Hearing myself say that out loud made me sound insensitive. And I said, maybe that's the reason why I'm getting the pushback, because I'm not being sensitive enough to the situation. You may have little epiphanic moments.
Absolutely. And what's so funny is, those of us that are in the helping field and mental health professionals ourselves, it's the adage is true. The doctors makes the worst patients, mental health professionals, we make the worst clients. Because, our mind is really torn, because we know all the therapeutic method and what we should be doing. Like in this moment, I should be doing A, B, and C. But there's just the natural part of you where you're like, I don't care about none of that. I want to feel what I feel, And so today, I don't want to be the bigger person. I don't want, to bring out the conflict resolution skills and know how they feel.
I just want to fight.
I just want to be paid. They took it, they went low, so I want to take it to heaven. I don't want to be the bigger person
right
I don't want to. And so this is why it's even important that mental health professionals have a therapist. Because there are some things, just all the things that we are receiving, just like, care professions. So that's your bartenders. People don't think of you guys as care professionals. You guys absolutely are. Teachers. Stylists. We know stylists hear all the tea. All the things. All the things. And so that has to go somewhere. And a lot of people, we don't even know how to process our own things. So we get a lot of secondary and vicarious trauma because we have taken on other people's things and made them our things. And now we can't separate whose stuff is who.
Exactly.
And so we are absolutely drained. And, like you said, it's practice. My therapist, oh Lord.
Shout out to therapists. Shout out to our therapists.
They're looking at me absolutely sideways. And, I understand that it's good to hear different voices.
Absolutely.
So even though I've never necessarily fired a therapist, there are certain times I'm like, okay, I think I need a different viewpoint. And recently, I started seeing a male therapist because I'm like, you know what? I need to fix this male voice in my head because I associate it with negativity. And is listening to other people as far as my input, my being able to take critique. And noticing how I reacted when it came from a woman. And how I reacted when it came from a man. When it came from a man, I was automatically more defensive. And part of that was taking it back to childhood, going to therapy and help me figure it out. You have a father wound. And I didn't necessarily associate it with that. I'm like, why would I have a father wound? My dad grew up right. He was right there. What are you talking about?
Right.
But just because your father or your mother was present doesn't mean they didn't hurt you.
Exactly. And in the Black community, we have a lot of woes, a lot of things. A lot of our parents, even though they didn't think they were, when we started becoming adults and adulting, those things that were suppressed and we weren't allowed to talk about, they came and matriculated in a way that was indirect from the original trauma. And now we have to figure out how to, find out where the incursion occurred. And go back and that's why a therapist has taught me how to do, astral project. And remove yourself from your present situation and just kind of float up and say, hey,
you.
Right. Bird's eye view, like, okay, where did this start? And then you go back to something as small as you weren't allowed to be free, or you was a very dictator type, what you do what I say and not as I do, and that you didn't have the chance to explore your personality or see how that could grow out. You were kind of sheltered. Little stuff like that. And being able to recognize that and then seeing okay, now what do I do? Knowing now I know what I know. How do I move forward? And then kind of putting an action plan in place
and be like, this is what I'm going to do. And then becoming a parent or someone that is in a mentor type position, like, I went through this. I don't want anyone else have to experience this. So applying those tools, like it's like a circle of life. It's like
I don't think we talk about it enough.
No, we don't.
Deconstruction process.
Yes.
I have these beliefs. I have these habits. I have this viewpoint of how to handle this situation, and it's been ingrained in me. And now I'm, almost 40 years old, and I'm having to learn or having to unlearn those things,
those habits,
those
thought processes,
those thoughts. Especially, in the Black community, a lot of that stems from our upbringing in church.
Oh yes,
a lot of shame that goes around that, and I'm also ordained clergy, but I pull that out when I need to. So very rarely do I, pull out the reverend card, and if I do, it's for a good reason. It's for a good reason. But I have learned, because I grew up Pentecostal. Pentecostal assemblies of the word, baby. So you wore lipstick, you was going to hell.
Right.
Some places you had to wear the skirts, so there was a lot of things, a lot of freedom that I didn't have. But when I grew up and I began to really study things for myself, and get my own understanding and develop my own relationship with God, there was a lot of stuff that I'm like, you know what? A lot of shame and just conviction attached to a lot of these things that weren't even biblical.
Yeah.
They were somebody else's process and how they were dealing with things.
Right.
And they put that on the congregation.
Right.
And so now, because we weren't allowed to ask questions, because, questioning the pastor was questioning God, which, no. No. But, this is much as the same with, some of these processes that we've gone through with being, parenting, and even how we work. What our parents and the environment that they grew up in and work is completely different than what we're growing up now.
Absolutely.
They worked at 20 years. They got a pension. They were taken care of for the rest of our lives.
Yeah.
Their lives. Us, baby, we'd be lucky to get 5 years at before a layoff happens, or, and there's a lot of things and ways in which our generation, we have these traumas that we think that each generation can't relate to, but they can.
Right.
I had a discussion with my mom, and we were talking about some of the occurrences. Really what stemmed from is I was pissed off about the attorney general getting acquitted. Like, I knew it was going to happen just because the numbers did.
Yeah.
Because we just have a lot of Republican senators, we do. But what hurt me is the amount of Democratic senators that didn't vote the way they should. But it really stemmed a conversation like, Mom, I just don't get how we're going backwards.
Yeah.
And so we had a conversation, a time to talk. And my mom, she also grew up in El Paso. She's been there since she was 10. And she began to tell me about her issues of, feeling secluded and left out, because she was one of the first people to integrate her elementary school.
Oh, wow.
So she was telling me how the teachers couldn't be blatant in their racism.
Yeah.
She's like, but you always knew it was there.
Oh, absolutely.
When they put you in the back of the classroom and, when you would go to answer a question, they'd call on everybody but you. When you did well on the test, but you only got a B and you couldn't get an answer out of the teacher as to, well, why is that wrong? And it's right on their paper.
Right.
And we began to connect on that because, we had our collective trauma being COVID and, 9/11 and all the things that happened, but they also had their collective trauma, Vietnam.
Yeah.
Where they saw a lot of their classmates go off to war and never come back.
Yeah.
At least not a lot.
Right.
So I think if we have these collective conversations and we can begin to heal and understand origin points.
Yeah.
Because a lot of their trauma came from people who are not around anymore. But we also have to understand the huge collective trauma as Black people, and that's slavery.
Yeah.
We are still dealing with that because we're not that many generations removed from it. So it's important for us to do our own personal work, but also to understand the collective work that we have to do.
Absolutely.
Our generation, I know, is that we have the unique privilege and sometimes burden of being trauma breakers.
Yes.
We have the opportunity to be bridge builders and to bring generations together because we see things differently than some of the other generations do. We know the analog stuff, but we also know how to get on these smartphones and work.
Yeah.
Right. And it gives us an opportunity to really come together and have these critical conversations that we all need to have. Because we have these younger folks struggling with an over access of information.
Yes.
I have all this information and I have no idea what to do with it. You know, so this is where the wisdom of the older generations comes with the knowledge and the information of the younger generations, and that we can come together and all of us move forward.
Absolutely.
But if we are so stuck in our own stuff that we can't even see, you know, again, put the mask on yourself first. If I can't breathe, how can I help anybody else?
Exactly. And I think that's important to acknowledge, especially as a mental health professional, as someone that's been seeking all their own wholeness. You know, we're still here with Stacey, y'all, and she's been a nugget of knowledge and just shedding light on a lot of things that happen in our community and people that are in the position to help other people, what they go through, their mental anguishes and things like that. We talk about the church scene in our community and how there's a stigma there of like how much freedom you really have. You know, the pastor has the final word. Like, kind of like how it works in a Black household. The parents have the final word. It's literally the same type of setup. There's an authoritative figure, right? And then as children, someone that is trying to build their own path, forge their own path, but not necessarily having the tools to even know what path to take. Recognizing that as a parent now, and then seeing that being in a generation to where you have access to things but know how to take it back if you need to. Like, all of that builds us as a character. We're considered millennials? Yeah, we're millennials.
Actually, we're kind of Zennials. We're like, well, I am. 1984, so I'm right on that cusp.
Okay, yeah, I'm an 88 baby.
Right on that cusp.
Okay.
Right? I get like Generation X, I get you.
Yeah.
Some of these Gen Z and all the ones I'm raising, I'm like,
it's Z's, and then it reset, and now it's alphas. And I'm like, man, we on a whole nother generation now, and that's making me feel older day by day. I said, how did we say?
Gets me is how far I have to scroll now.
Yeah.
What? No, just let me type it in.
What behoove me is when we be on the application and they don't have it, we can type. It's the ranges.
Oh, yeah.
And now I'm in another bracket. That don't make me feel good, y'all.
And I had to go to that 35, and I'm like, listen.
35 to 42. I'm like, y'all need to stop it. Y'all keep changing it.
You know, what got me as a woman, you know, when I had, you know, because my first child I had at 21, second child I had when I was 28. So when I had my daughter, and they pulled out this term that I think is so disrespectful and told me I was geriatric pregnancy. Listen, geriatric where? I know you're not referring to anything on this body as geriatric. But just the fact that I was over, you know, 32, having a baby.
Wow.
You know, I'm just like, you know what? We need to update some of these terms. Sensitivity, come on now.
Sensitivity training. Say, whoever can. I need to speak to the committee.
No, we have no son. We're not gonna do it. Geriatric.
That term don't feel well in our community at all.
It really does.
There's actually a couple, and I talk about this a couple times. There's ignorant. That's a trigger in our community. Like ignorant versus ignorant, totally two different things. And you gotta know your audience. Know your audience going into a conversation. Using that R word, that's dangerous.
Yeah, it could be the difference between a critical conversation and critical care.
Absolutely. So before we wrap up,
How can the people follow you? How can they find you?
So I made it pretty simple just because I don't like remembering all these things. So,
Absolutely.
all my handles, Stacey, Stacey DB Speaks on all the platforms, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. Yes. Remember my E, because if it doesn't have an E, it's not me.
It ain't me.
Okay?
No E, ain't me.
Ain't no E, ain't me. But I also have my website, www.staceybrown.com, and soon to be coming Brilliance and Resilience.
Nice. Okay. Well, she's been such a delight, y'all. Make some noise for her. Appreciate you for being on the show today. You've been such a delight. The energy, the nuggets, just the perspective, all welcome here on JSR. And for those of us watching out there, make sure you tune into this one. Make sure you guys follow her. And at the moment, we're about to be out. I'm a little hungry, y'all. So
it's time for me to get back in bed.
Enjoy the rest of your Sunday fun day. We'll talk to y'all next time.